Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. We'll do that one more time. I know we just had a break. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thank you very much, Claudia, for that introduction. So my name is Kenny Imafidon, and I'm a political commentator. I'm just going to ask everybody here one question, and that question is: who here has ever been told to think outside the box? Just put a show of hands. So, judging by the show of hands, that's everybody here. And who here actually also believes that they are somebody who thinks outside the box? So, less hands. Great, huh? Oh gosh. But anyway, I'm going to show you what it means to actually think outside the box. This is the definition by Oxford. Anyway. That's something else. So to think differently, unconventionally, and from a new perspective. And obviously it's not like that, obviously, but that's just a picture that I used. And basically for me, thinking outside the box is something that is totally different. For me, thinking outside the box is much more than just thinking of actually what's an idea, what can I do different. Thinking outside the box for me is a way of life. And if you look at all these pictures on the screen and all these logos, some of them you recognize. So for example, Snapchat, the creators of that, and now over 200 million people use Snapchat across the world. Then you've got WhatsApp. WhatsApp, more messages are sent and received on WhatsApp than traditional SMS. That's the first time an instant messaging app has taken over something that comes with our phones. And then you've got people such as Henry Sampson, who created the cell phone, which all of us here have today. And then you've got Steve Jobs, obviously, with Apple, the most valuable brand. And then you've got the woman who created this bottom square paper bag. And you're probably wondering why I put Margaret Knight there, but I put her there because she worked in a company where they used to produce paper bags, but the bottom wasn't square. And she realized, actually, if I made it square, then much more things could fit inside and they wouldn't fall out. A very simple idea, but to today, many of us still use these square bottom paper bags. But for me, I'm going to talk about thinking outside the box from a different perspective. I'm going to talk about the boxes which we call situations, stigmas, comfort zones, as well as the box in terms of life. And I'm going to talk to you about 3 boxes. And these 3 boxes are education, prison, and society. So education. When I grew up, I was fed the story that, Kenny, make sure you go to school, and if you go to school, the world will be your oyster. Kenny, go to school and be well behaved, get the top grades, and you're guaranteed to be successful. And that's what my mum told me, and my family members, and everyone else, aunties, uncles. Go to school, be a good boy, and everything will be well. Well, actually, for me, school was just a box in itself. Because guess what? No one told me the fact that just because I get good grades in school, for me to get my dream job, I'm going to need work experience. No one told me that to get my dream job, I'm going to need networks. I'm going to need contacts. I'm going to need soft skills and to be confident, to have self-esteem. That wasn't taught to me in school. Nobody told me the fact that because I'm black, and when I misbehave, I'm more likely to be excluded than kids from other races that misbehave too. Nobody told me the fact that because I'm not part of the 7% of students that go to private school, that my chances of success or getting that dream job is even slimmer. Nobody told me about the fact that because my parents are not wealthy, even if I work harder and I'm smarter than children from wealthier backgrounds, they're more likely to get that job. As far as my mum was concerned, school was the only thing that mattered. I left school not knowing anything about finances or politics. I didn't know nothing about being registered to vote. I didn't know nothing about setting up a bank account. What is a mortgage? I left school with just grades, but no life skills. And then the whole point of reason why we go to school is because of education. But do you have to go to school in order to be educated? And there's many people who look up to today, whether it's Malcolm X, John Major, Richard Branson. These are big people and household names. But guess what? A lot of them didn't go to school. But would we argue and say that they're not educated? And in school, well, we find ourselves being a victim of a system that tells you, unless you do exceptionally well, then you're a failing student. Well, I refuse to be a victim of a system that tells me just because I didn't get an A, B, or C, that means that I can't get anywhere in life. And school for me was just a box that my mom told me that with this box, you can be everything you want to be. And whereas I had to think outside that box for actually understanding, I needed to get networks. I needed work experience. I need to understand that I could be way more than a student. People that you just saw before on those screens, Steve Jobs and the creators of Snapchat, they were all students when they created those brands that you see today. And I refused to be a student. And that led me to actually, to today, produce 3 national reports, work on a European report, be recognized for the work that I'm doing in the community, fight campaigns, and fight for social justice. But I'm a student, and as far as my mum was concerned, the only thing that mattered was that box called school. And the moral of that story is that you can be way more than a student. And school is not everything. Especially when you're like me and you go to a school that's identified as a failing school by Ofsted. And the second box, prison. Many of us, we think about prison based on what we read in the news. We think it's some sort of youth club. And everybody there's got PlayStation and TV. Says great. But nobody talks to us about the actual system that drags young people into prison in the first place. A system that where if you're black or ethnic minority, you're more likely to be stopped. You're more likely to be arrested. You're more likely to be charged. You're more likely to be sent to prison, and you're more likely to serve a longer sentence than your white counterparts. And that doesn't surprise me when I understand the fact that there's more people in terms of population like me in prison than outside. And then people will say we've got a just system. Nobody talks about the fact that almost half of people in young offender institutes have come from people referral units, which means they've been kicked out of school. Nobody talks about how much young inmates actually have mental health issues. How many of them are suffering, being punished 23 hours a day in their cell? Some of us can't even spend 23 hours a day in our rooms. Nobody talks about the fact that a lot of these young men here, their reading age is about 10 or 11. No one talks about the fact that a lot of people in prison come from our care system. If you're a child in care, you're more likely to end up in prison than go to university. And for me, in terms of how I had to think outside this box, I had to realize that, Kenny, you could be way more than a prison number. Because that's who you are in prison. And nobody talks to and tells people that the people in prison, not all of them, they are guilty. We see miscarriages of justice every single day around the world. No one talks about the amount of people who are on remand having to still go through those same pressures and trials as everybody else there. And in the prison that I was in, for young offenders, I ended up finding myself there on May the 9th, 2011. Therefore, a murder charge alongside 6 other charges. And I never ever thought I'd be in this box. And why would I? I left school with 12 GCSEs, was a prefect in school, done very well, done all the work experience, done everything I could, but I ended up in that box. So I'm definitely not your typical suspect. And I found myself facing the potential of 30 years of my life. And if I let that box define me or tell me what I could or what I couldn't do, I wouldn't be here today. And during my time that I went to prison, I was just about to do my end of year A2 exams. And I was literally about to go off to university whilst it's still £3,000. But I missed the opportunity. But I was still able to do my A-levels, and I became the first person ever to do my A-levels whilst I was in Felton Prison. And I refused the fact that just because they told me I couldn't do it, doesn't mean that I shouldn't fight and try and do it. Just because nobody else has done it in there and it wasn't normal, doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. And that's because this prison doesn't allow people to do the exam, doesn't mean that I should let that stop me. And since leaving this box, which where many people leave and they don't get no support. So can you imagine, you go through all those issues and you come out with no one there to support you? And then they wonder why the amount of people going back to prison after offending is so high. And I thank God I'm here today to be able to share this story with you. Because for me, this box totally changed my life. Because I refused and I told myself, and I constantly pray that if this box doesn't break me, then it definitely has to make me. And since then, I've been able to achieve many things. And I've seen what life's like in a totally different way. And I understand now why a lot of people who leave prison can't really amount to anything. Because then we've got society who looks at them and says, actually, you've been to this place, you're a bad person, you definitely don't have potential, and that's why you're there in the first place. But God forbid if I was one of those people that ended up in prison and I actually got found guilty, you wouldn't know the things I'll be able to achieve today. You'd have just saw me as another person in the news who's some sort of bad boy who ended up in there. And then the third box is society. And many of us live inside this box. And this box here, for me, is the most dangerous box of them all. Because we let society tell us who we can be, what we can do. We let society tell us what is beautiful, who is beautiful. Let society make us feel that unless we use 10 filters on our Instagram, then we're not beautiful. Like, we spend so much time studying people in society, and the worst thing about it, we don't even know ourselves. Like, more people could tell you more about Kim Kardashian, 50 Cent, P. Diddy, than about themselves. And just think about that. What does that say as we as individuals, if we know more about other people than ourselves? And then most of us, because society tells us you can never be this, you can never do that, we think, actually, yeah, that's true. And we always think that somebody's watching us because of society. But the important question I ask everybody is that if you felt that nobody is watching you when you fall down, if you felt that nobody is watching you when you make your mistakes, how much could you achieve? Society tells us to live fast and don't worry about tomorrow. It tells us that success is all about being in front of a camera screen and having loads of money. And I'll tell you for free, success is not just about money. Nobody remembers the richest man who died yesterday. Because when you die, no one's going to care about how much money you made. And when people see that dash is not going to represent money. going to represent the lives that you touched, the people that you blessed, the people that you helped. Remember, when you're dead, no one's going to come to your funeral because they think they're going to get money. And for me, this box here is very deep. Because we encompass our whole beliefs, our whole expectations inside this box. And society, if we're not careful in terms of how we look at it, this box can crush us. This box can define you. This box tells you that, do you know what? You are a single mother. This box tells you that you're ex-gang member. This box tells you that you are from this poor area and that's what you're going to amount to be. This box tells you that, do you know, you're a cleaner and you can never be nothing more. This box tells you that actually, do you know, you got E's and F's in school. I'm sorry, mate, you're not really going to get far in life. And this box tells us so much, and this box comes in forms of advice also. A lot of us, we love to take advice. But we can't always take advice because a lot of people giving you advice, you don't know their agenda. And I'm not saying don't be arrogant and don't listen to people, but I'm saying not everybody's opinion matters. At the end of the day, the truth is once you take that decision, you're going to live with those consequences, not that person. Because it's easy for me to tell you, don't do that. But if your gut instinct tells you to do that, then do it. Like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to be down. And the part people don't tell you a lot about success in society is that with success there comes so much pain. The pain of making those sacrifices which you don't want to make. Because all we ever see is the end product. And we say, oh yeah, look where this person's up to. And people may look at me and they may think actually, Sai looks at me and thinks, oh, well done. He changed his life, he done this, he done that. All that stuff there is rubbish. I took those decisions because I felt it was important to do. I know no one understands the amount of work that you put in to get to where you want to get to. And there's no such thing as luck. Either work hard, you understand the game, or there's no two ways about it. There's no getting the elevator to become successful. You have to go up them long stairs. And this fish here, that golden fish, that should always be us. We should be okay to stand out and be different. Because the truth is, a lot of us are not comfortable in our own company. We're not comfortable about who we are. But that's what we've got to be in order to think outside the box. And then the great thing that I tell you, and the best lesson I've learned about thinking outside the box is that there is no box in the first place. That box is just in your head. And you make life whatever you want to make it. So ignore everything I've said to you earlier and just be yourself. Thank you.